This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are joined once again by our good friend Brice Palm, who is going to come alongside us and predict the game, the Super Bowl, where his Eagles are here against the Chiefs to come out on top this time rather than lose like they did a couple years ago. And we're also going to talk about some of the big moves that Ohio State has made, that some other teams have made, and talk briefly about Luka Doncic and what does this mean about the Dallas Mavericks? What does this mean for the Lakers and LeBron James? All that, so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to an episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and continuing his record-setting streak, Brice is back. Jared, you are in the hole deep at this point. There's no beating this streak. Anyways, he is almost as good of a streak as Conor McGregor coming back to the UFC. Oh wait, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Anyways, we're here to talk about the game to some people, not to me, but the game of the year. And then as the Super Bowl, we have the Cheater Chiefs and we have the Philadelphia Eagles. So we have it's going to be a great matchup between the referees and the Chiefs versus the Eagles. And I know I'm riling up Josh over there. I can just see it right now. Anyways,
he's wearing yellow. He's already ready to throw the flag.
That's true. But anyways, how are you doing, Brice? Josh, how are you doing? How's it going?
Man, I'm doing great. Still feeling high off that Ohio State victory, and now I got my favorite NFL team in a championship game. My goodness, it's I don't know how many people can say they've had their college team and their NFL team win in the same season. Well, if we win, but to even be and have both my teams play for this kind of stake of a game, it's awesome. As a sports fan, I feel fantastic.
I've never had that as a Browns fan, so
yeah, probably
Cavs are playing great too. I love the Cavs, even though they lost last night. But
probably the closest I've come to that feeling was 2016 Cavs and then 2016 Cleveland Indians. But we know how those went. So, yeah, I'm doing good over here as well, Ben. We've had some warmer weather in Ohio these last few days, which has been nice. What a week of sports too, like outside of just the Super Bowl, there's so much other like things that we could talk about today that we just aren't going to have time. So we'll probably just have to briefly gloss over them. But I know there's turnover on Ohio State's coaching staff continuing. There's that Luka Doncic trade that seemed to come out of nowhere. There's a lot of stuff happening, but we'll definitely talk about the most important thing, the big thing first. We won't keep the folks waiting. We'll give a Super Bowl takes, predictions, how we think the game's going to go. As it stands right now, guys, per the bets, 55% of bets have been placed on Philly. From my research that I did on Instagram with my poll, I got 9 votes for the Eagles to win and 8 votes for KC to win, which I thought was interesting. It was that close, but there were a handful of I know Eagles fans that voted Philly too, and I don't know if that's just out of belief that they think they're that good, or if they just are hopeful that they can overcome not only the red team across from them, but the zebra team as well. But KC minus 120 money line right now, Eagles plus 100. That's what we're looking at right now. Vegas think it's going to be a pretty neck and neck game at least.
Yeah. This game's weird though, man. It's like I feel like it feels like the least amount of hype for a Super Bowl that like I've ever been like around. Really? No, like the reason I say that is because like so since I've been over here in Europe, when the Super Bowl happens, it's still actually pretty hyped over here. Like they'll talk about it obviously with the teas, but I think because the Chiefs have just like kind of been here for like the last, feels like century. And I think with the Eagles being, I think they're definitely a great team. Both are great teams. I think I've just felt less hype, and even just generally from friends of both teams that I have, like not hyping it up as much as I thought as it would be. But again, maybe that's just because it's going to be 2 good teams, and no one really wants to brag about their team going to blow the other team out, which could be also a good thing as well. But I think, anyways, going to the game, I think this game is going to be, I think it's going to be one in the trenches. I don't know if I might be the only one that says that. I think it's going to be one which which offensive line, can keep the quarterbacks up as well as the run game going. And I think on the other side is like what defense can make these two quarterbacks and these offenses just feel frustrated. And I think that starts up front, and I think that's where the key lies for this game. Because if Philly can run the ball, it's kind of like how you beat Ohio State. When you do is you keep them off of the field offensively, and I think that's what the Eagles are going to try to do. And they'll be the first team in a long time to win the old school way. And I think it's good for the game of football. As someone who coaches, it's good to see that kind of football, and I'm interested to see how it goes in this game for sure.
Trenches. I
Mm,
mean,
yes,
let's just talk about, I guess, how both teams have done in the trenches so far. On
Eagles.
one hand, you'd probably say the Eagles might have the edge, the way that Saquon runs the football, the way that Hurts gets the tush
he's also just a
push. Like
freak though.
anytime, if anyone needs a yard, I think that you can definitely count on Phil to get that. But yeah, Saquon absolutely is a freak enough athlete that he can get his. But it's not like Philly's ever been a slouch on the offensive line either. They just had that one game against the Rams where Hurts got sacked 7 times, and I know Snow was involved, and I don't know how much that might have affected Philly's pass game in that one. But on the flip side, KC uh, was able to get to CJ Stroud 8 times, and I think they got to Josh Allen 2 or 3 times. Uh, and then to go off of how this game could be won in the trenches, Patrick Mahomes has never really been all that impressive in any of his Super
No,
Bowl
no,
performances. It
he
feels
has
like he
not.
always is finishing with less than 200 yards, more interceptions than touchdowns. Uh, maybe that'll be the case again. I wouldn't be betting on him to like just explode in this game given the track record there. But yeah, KC's had some good games in the trenches. Even last year's Super Bowl against the 49ers, Chris Jones I thought was such an impact player in that game, just being able to get after Purdy and make his life hell. So I would lean Philly in this one, but KC's definitely got some guys in the trenches that can do some stuff too.
Mm. Local Eagles fan.
I mean, yeah, when you bring up the trenches, the Eagles, you didn't mention the Eagles' defensive line either, which
Yeah,
is
they're good too.
I actually think is the real factor. Our defensive line has been crazy, and I did just see this funny little stat. Number one starting QBs versus number one defense, which the Eagles have in a Super Bowl, are 3-11. So I think that's just more credit to the Eagles defense. Like you said, it's trenches. So we got to look at both sides of the ball in the trenches. Eagles, I think, excel beyond the Chiefs in both defensive line and offensive line. Our ability to just swap out all our dudes. Um, Jalen Carter is ripping it up. Zach Bond, not on the line, but he can run up there and he can play any position on defense. He's just been impressive. He has a chance to win Defensive Player of the Year. But I think I can agree with you that it's going to be one in the trenches. I mean, Saquon's the factor. You can give him the ball 50 times. Two of them are probably going to break off at least for
Hmm.
60, 70 yards like he does every game. It's going to be about can they keep the Chiefs from scoring, really? Because I know the Eagles are going to score. They're going to score.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the rundown of the trenches argument. But I think it's going to come down to big playability. That's how Chiefs win. They have big plays. I won't bring up the referee call thing that screwed up the last Super Bowl that they. I still think the Eagles
I
won
hated that Bradbury call, dude. They stayed
that
out of the
pass
way
interference.
all game long until that play.
And some say they're not for the Chiefs. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
You can't deny something that's very obvious. I don't know,
either
man.
Roger Goodell is super out of touch, or he just was playing a character and the conspiracy is true. And I don't know if you guys
Oh,
heard him answering the
No,
questions about.
I think no, but I think my thing is like as someone who coaches in a league that has very bad referees and is known to have like the worst referees in Europe. Like I know that I can never win a battle by like discussing with the refs. It's never going to win. But it's like so obvious these calls. Like this is why I think you see in baseball, you see in the NBA, you see in soccer now more and more. people are calling for more replays of crucial plays or just generally of tough calls because humans seem to get worse with these calls over the years. And it's like, at what point are we going to get to the point where it's so lopsided that one team's getting so many amount of penalties, or when it's just becoming like as soon as we tackle a guy, it's a penalty. And so for me, like, look, as a former quarterback, I get protecting the quarterback, but there are some things where it's like you signed up to play a violent sport. And at the end of the day, it is a violent sport. If you're worried about your head, I know that people have gone through that. If you're worried about it, then stop playing. Like at the end of the day, it's a violent sport. And I think the refs have to stay out of this game. You have to let this game be within the rule books, but be as violent as it can be within the rule books. Do not just start doing the soft stuff because then that's why people stop watching the NFL. Because at least with college, yeah, they have targeting, but they kind of let things just kind of play. And again, it's not always perfect, but I think in the NFL, if you pay these refs as much as you do, there should be some type of system that helps them guide them where they need to be.
Yeah, I'll speak on that a little bit. To the college point, it seems like all the good teams in college never get
They
like
get
the refs in
any
their
call.
favor,
It's like
and
opposite of the NFL.
this Ohio State team was a prime example of that, like dead
Never got
last in
anything.
opponent penalty yards. In the NFL, it doesn't seem to go that way, and I've been reading all the charts people have been posting about the things like roughing the passer, defensive pass interferences, just the ones that the Chiefs get called compared to their opponents, and it's pretty lopsided when you look at it. And some of those that you see is just so obviously just like the refs trying to intervene almost. Like there
Oh,
might not be
the
something
Chiefs are
there
just that disciplined. They're just that good. What are you talking about?
just that good. Yeah,
Ugh.
that's why a lot of these Patrick Mahomes interceptions, there's all of a sudden a flag thrown like 3 seconds after the fact or something like that. But it's not even just like the plays like that are the judgment calls. It's the stuff that they just seem to be the only team to get away with. The Buffalo Bills game with the game clock and the play clock being like 1 second apart, and them not getting a delayed game is one of those examples. Or Xavier Worthy having one like a few fingers on a football and then like uses the ground to help catch it while the Buffalo defender also has hands on it and it somehow gets called a catch for the Chiefs. Or Steve Spagnuolo getting to call timeouts when assistants aren't allowed to do that. Or players taking their helmets off when they go up to refs and touch them. And that stuff's not supposed to be automatic flags. Or Patrick Mahomes losing his helmet, supposed to sit out of play and doesn't have to do that. Like they get all these like special privileges that just no other team gets, which I'm more so frustrated with those. Like, yeah, I know the Patriots during their run with Tom Brady.
Not
There
this
was
bad though. Not this
there were
egregious.
seasons like if you look at Tom Brady's whole career, it was pretty even, but there were some seasons there where it was just like, you got to be kidding me, man. And it was like the judgment call penalties like that, but it never was like the extra special privileges kind of stuff. That's the stuff that gets at me more.
Yeah,
But
and it's a real thing. Like it's weird. We're not just disgruntled fans. Like we're fans of the game. We're talking about this thing we're seeing unfold, and like everybody is noticing it. It's not just something like, oh, let's all hate on the Chiefs because they're successful and they're good. Like there's something weird here.
yeah, even the margins of victory, like the Patriots during their runs could beat teams pretty bad. Like the Deflategate game against the Colts, they beat them by 40 points or something like that, not even close. And the Chiefs are just like getting by a few points here and a few points
It's
there,
so annoying, man.
game-winning drives or something like that. Like they're getting seemingly saved from control. And Roger Goodell is absolutely a character in this one. He's really good at playing characters, putting on an act, not being super serious or a real human being. No authenticity to that guy whatsoever.
True.
Would
True.
love to see that guy on like Joe Rogan's show for 3 hours try to talk and eventually break character. And
He's basically the Joe Biden of sports commissioners.
well, Adam
It's
Silver could be that guy too, man. Rob Manfred does things to be that guy too.
Dude, they're
It's
all just
it's
terrible.
you'd
They're
think like it's so easy right now to be the best commissioner in all sports, but neither one really seems to have a clear lead as the best.
no, not no, no, she's no.
except Dana White in the UFC.
That's true.
Yeah, that'd be like
Like
me. Yeah,
I don't know if people would call UFC a major sports league like what the NBA, MLB, NHL and are, but Dana White is
It's
definitely
getting there, but yeah, it's not up there yet. But
Yeah, he runs his league well.
I want to see when Donald Trump's done with presidency, I want to see him like take over and be the commissioner for like one of these sports leagues. You see, the game was a perfect game. We are putting a tariff on balls.
He's supposed to be at the Super Bowl, well, I
He's
think.
gonna be the first sitting
Yeah,
president, I think, since
he's gonna be there. Yeah.
like Bush, I think was the last one that was at a Super Bowl, I think. I'm not sure
They're
exactly.
also saying that Trump's appearance is why they're taking the end racism stamps out of the end zones.
I doubt that's the reason
I
why,
don't
but
think that's the reason either, but
Or how
I
about the
think it's
fact
funny
that
that
half
that's getting
I
paired
won't get
together.
oh jeez.
yeah,
I'm not
I'm
gonna get
pretty sure
political
the
today.
majority of the NFL fan base is a fairly conservative bunch, but
Yeah.
we're probably getting a little away from the game now.
I feel
Yeah.
listen, you know Bryce well enough that Josh and I have to put one political segment into our show, even if it has nothing to do with anything we're talking about. Just a
Yeah.
requirement.
Uh,
Requirement.
we can get back to
Predictions?
talking game wise though.
I feel like we should do some predictions
But
because I'm
bouncing on the
hyped.
point earlier when you opened up, Ben, saying that
Yeah,
you feel like it's not as hype,
yeah,
I actually feel it is. I mean, obviously, I'm a little biased because I'm an
yeah,
Eagles fan, but I feel the hype is just as big as any in the previous years. It's just that it's a different kind of hype where it's like super negative, and I'm not gonna watch it. I'm not, oh,
yeah.
but
True,
you're gonna
true.
watch it, okay?
Negative negative
Everyone's gonna
discussions. Yeah.
watch it.
Sucks. Yeah.
I feel
At
like it's
least
probably gonna be one of the most watched Super Bowls we've had in 5 years.
I think at least compared to last year's matchup, I even though it was Chiefs Niners, I wasn't really all that excited about that one. This one like has all the, I guess, like Bryce said, the angry hype against Kansas City. I think a lot of people are excited about Saquon and the superstars that are going to be in this game. Uh, and then just like the rematch factor, like these teams played each other a couple years. It came down to the wire. Chiefs ended up winning by that
Yeah,
field goal after
the
that one
three-peat
call.
narrative.
Yeah, yeah. So I am at least I can say as a fan of neither team more excited for this year's matchup than I was last year's.
Yeah.
Uh, Bryce, I'll ask you because this was a topic of discussion the last time we talked Eagles in the playoffs. If this game comes down to Jalen Hurts has to go win it, do you think he can?
Well, I think it is going to come down to Jalen Hurts having to win it. I think he's the factor in this. It's not Saquon necessarily. If he can have a performance like he did in the first one, I mean, he did everything right, and I think if he does that again, I think we're safe as long as there's no bullcrap calls again that screw it all up. But yeah, no, I think he is. I think he's. I'm still wondering how that injury that happened in the Rams game, or was it the Rams game? Which one did he hurt his leg in?
I have
It
no
might have
idea.
been the Rams. That was the snow game, and he
Yeah, it was the
wasn't
snow
that great
game,
in that
but
one.
he came back out just fine. And then obviously championship against Washington. So I don't think it's a real issue. He's had time to recover. Um, but I mean that's still something you never know if they're hiding or not. But yeah, I think it is going to come down to Jalen Hurts. If he plays bad, we lose. If he plays just good enough, we win.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Simple.
yeah, definitely gonna have to count on Hurts in this one. I don't have any doubts Saquon will get his, but yeah, just gotta
I mean,
make sure you.
The Chiefs are so good that we can't just be one dimensional. I mean, even if it is Saquon, we can't just hand the ball off to him. I know I mentioned earlier
Yeah.
handing the ball off 50 times, like we might not even the way Super Bowls are played, they always seem slower paced and fewer drives. For all
Hmm.
we know, Saquon might not have the opportunity to carry the ball 20 times. So yeah, it's going to come down to Jalen being able to make some throws. I've watched all season. There's times where he just holds on to the ball for too long and runs to the side and runs out and doesn't let it go. Although he's shown fast improvements with that during this playoffs. So it's all going to be all about his decision making. All the time he's leaving wide receivers like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith open, doesn't get it off. It frustrates me so much, but
Yeah.
he's really shined and come into his own these past couple games. I expect him to deliver. Even watching the press conferences and everything, he just seems so calm and poised and mature and ready to get that revenge.
What book will AJ Brown be reading on the sidelines this Sunday?
The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump.
That'd be
So the
great.
first one was inner excellence, right? So, hmm, outer excellence, maybe how he can make everyone else play better outside of him too. How can he support others rather than just be a diva on the side to himself?
That's true.
We'll find out. But yeah, any other final thoughts, Ben, before we
No,
try to predict?
I just can't wait to see how bad the Super Bowl commercials will be this year.
They
Think about the
just
Super Bowl commercials. They start releasing them early now. Like I swear, I've already seen so many
Listen, it's
companies
so
release.
dumb. It used to be when we were kids that you only found out about the Super Bowl commercials during the Super Bowl. Like that's
Yeah,
the point. It's not
yeah, they
supposed
were
to
like
happen
one of
before it.
one. You only
Like
got to see them one
yes.
time.
Now you can watch some of them on YouTube already, and it's what's the point?
Yeah. The the surprise factor's gone, yeah. I still thought that like Kanye's last year, I think it was last year, was one of the more interesting ones because of how low budget it was.
Mhm.
And then he's like sold a bunch of shoes from it without any kind of like entertainment factor at all. He's just like, I got some shoes on like this iPhone 4 camera that he's filming on, and they post the link at the end, and yeah. All right, though. Uh, I'll go ahead and try to predict this game first. I think it will be close, as most of Kansas City's games have been close. But as much as I wanna say Philly. I do like Philly on paper. I really think that this is going to end up being some kind of Patrick Mahomes game-winning drive, as it has been in these last few Super Bowls. And I think that we'll see 3 or 4 plays per usual that we'll look back on and be like, "You got to be kidding me! It happened again." I don't know what they will be, but a KC game-winning drive seems inevitable to me. Maybe with a final score of, hmm, I know these, like we just said, these games do tend to be slower paced, so I'm trying not to guess too high of a score. Maybe
I mean, the
27,
last one was
24.
fairly high score, but it's something about watching them that always feels slow.
Yeah, I'll go 27-24. KC victory. I
Ooh.
hate it.
So good score. I'm on similar page here. I struggle with look, we all know how hard it is to win back to back to back. Like we know that, right? Like it's hard, right? And I think what's tough for me in this game is that I don't know what version of Patrick Mahomes we're going to get. Are we going to get the same Super Bowl struggle that we seem to get him every time he's in a Super Bowl? It just seems like it's like he just doesn't perform, and that's why I always
Doesn't
say
appear
that.
until the fourth quarter.
And this is why I always struggle with saying that he's the GOAT. You know, some people are saying he's the GOAT if he wins this one. I'm like, no, he's not, because he never performs well in the like. I feel like if you're the GOAT, you perform well in the regular season, you win titles, and you perform in those titles, right? Like you're always showing up. And I feel like with Patrick, it sometimes just doesn't seem like it's always there. But that's another story for another day. But I think for me, I'm actually going to lean. Actually, I'm going to lean Eagles on this one. I just there's something about also the Jason Kelsey angle where, you know, it's kind of cool for him to be now away from the team, but still getting to root for his Eagles to almost have that redemption kind of feel, and for Saquon to just screw over the Giants would just even be better. So for me, I'm going to say Eagles 30, Chiefs 24.
Ooh, close to my score prediction.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Hmm.
Okay. So with my prediction, there's like I keep battling between two narratives. It's so difficult because the one narrative is the one that everybody keeps joking about.
Yeah.
It is it rigged? And it certainly almost feels that way.
Yeah.
It, it's like trying to deny the Illuminati or something. Like we all know it's probably really there, but we have to kind of go on and exist as if it isn't. That's
I
what I
know.
feel about the Chiefs.
I
So
know,
like
man.
the narrative with the three-peat, I mean that'd be historic for the NFL. I'm sure they could sell on that and market that. But then on the other side of that same narrative, to where in theory, if it's under control, um, is now you have this whole fan base that's really angry and hateful, and they want to see one team's downfall so bad, and they've been waiting for two almost 3 seasons now for it to happen. It's like, as the NFL, do you just award the fans and then you script it for the Eagles to win so everybody can just breathe this sigh and like, oh, now we can kind of forget about the whole narrative that it's rigged for the Chiefs, and you let everybody sigh. Like every year you push someone a little bit further, then step back a little, push them a little bit further, then step back a little.
Hmm.
And maybe they'll just script it for the Eagles to win that way. That everyone can breathe a sigh and then jump in. Oh, yes, the Eagles won. The Chiefs aren't the best. The ref thing isn't real. But that's all joking and just fun aside. Let's throw that all out. The game aside, I think I don't believe that everything is rigged. Overall, I don't. I do think the better team should win and will win. And I believe that is the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're better on paper pretty much everywhere. I think they're if you compare it to the last Super Bowl, to me the Chiefs are still pretty much the same as where they were before. Their success, again, throwing conspiracies outside the window, is still really baffling to me. I don't know how they're winning and how they're that good. They don't have, other than Patrick Mahomes, like, well, what is really there? And I just have to give credit to Andy Reid, who is also the most winningest coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's a phenomenal coach, and I think he's arguably one of the greatest of all time, especially if he wins this three-peat. Um, their success baffles me. I mean, a little bit, but Eagles, like I said, but I think they're better everywhere. Their big play ability is better. There's just no reason to me, in the same way I said about Ohio State all year, there's no reason this team shouldn't win. I think there's no reason the Eagles shouldn't be able to beat the Chiefs, based on putting the two teams against each other. I think it's going to look a little similar to the first Super Bowl, although I do think the Eagles this time will maintain the lead that they had going into the half. And I think they're going to keep the lead the entire game. I'm sure there'll be some scary moments towards the end, as Eagles have always played all year, where they tend to play soft coverage towards the end, let them up, get some garbage score. They've been phenomenal strategically with eating up the clock and using it wisely with their coaching, defensively and offensively. When you can get first downs all the time with Saquon, it's great. I mean, I could ramble on about why I think the Eagles are better, um, forever, but my final score, after many looking at stats, throwing them together, playing many simulations on Madden and everything, I
I
get
know
the
about him.
Eagles. I think the Eagles win 34-24 by 10.
Double digits.
I do. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be the
because
over.
Josh is too much with the cheaters. He likes to root for cheaters. So
Yeah.
I don't. I just can't deny what I've seen. You guys see the whole machine that's
Yeah.
behind this three-peat and wants to happen so bad. And I know my analysis sounds lazy, but it's just
it's because it
what's in front
is.
of me.
I'm just kidding.
I mean,
It
I,
is
I
like
won't be
Bryce just gave us
surprised.
like a well, I thought
This is the first
broke
time Josh has
breakdown.
been outdone by Ben and Bryce, and now he's been outdone.
I'm
It's
just trying to
not, and
give
I'm
some
not.
hope and integrity for the game. I want it to still be there, and I think if the Eagles win, I think we can. I can at least comfortably say there is still some integrity there. I think the Eagles are the light in the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs are the devil. So we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
because I absolutely agree with you. You look at like the Philly roster, and it's like borderline super team when you look at the fact they got guys like Devontae and Saquon and AJ Brown and Goddard and Jalen Hurts is
Their
throwing to them, and
coaching's
they
been
got
inconsistent at times. That's the problem.
Yeah,
then on the defense you got Mitchell and DeJean out
yeah,
in the
right.
backfield, Gardner Johnson. You got on the
Cooper
defensive
DeJean was
line
like
all the
lighting it up. I mean,
yeah
Blankenship and
Nolan
Slay.
Smith, Jordan Davis,
Yeah,
Jalen Carter, Bond.
Zach Bond.
Like
Yeah,
it's like yeah, would it would make sense in any other scene for Philly to win this game, except I've just been seeing too much on the other side. One team getting, a lot better treatment, a lot team that's getting favored more, a team that's been getting talked about by the league a lot more. I can't deny what's in front of me. So
yeah.
I hope that I am wrong, and I hope that Bryce is right. And if I was picking this, independent from the NFL, if this was like two college teams and I didn't have to worry about the three-peat narrative and stuff, I probably would lean Philly. I leaned Philly the first time they played too, but
Yeah,
I've just seen
even
too
if I
much.
was, even if we're going with the script factor, if I were to write the script, I think it actually would make a better story if the Eagles won, just because you got everybody pissed off at you right now, right? And then it just kind of
Hmm.
Eagles win, and then they can be like, "Ha, see, we're not pushing it, we're not
Yeah,
cheating." Yeah.
they'll just have I guess they've KC's won 3 and 4 years, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
This would just be three in a row, and then that'd be 4 out of 5. But yeah, they could throw another gap in there and then
Yeah, they don't
let
care
them come
about
back
history
next
being
year.
made. They care about making money. And
Nobody cares about history being made. Saquon passed up the rushing record.
Josh is still annoyed about that.
yeah,
It's
and they
like
also
they,
Philly also has to win because of that disaster with the plane crash that happened and everything. And
yeah,
not to
win for the
joke
city.
lightly about that, but for some reason, those things with that happening right before a Super Bowl. I mean, I would think maybe if there is some script writers, they'd be like, "Oh, well, we need to give the city of brotherly love some extra love and have them win a Super Bowl." Maybe I don't know.
Win
Maybe.
for the city. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, for the city. Although LA lost against the Eagles when the fires happened, so maybe that's a bonk theory. But
Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? Um,
Um, I don't have anything else to add.
no,
oh,
I
what
don't
about
either.
who wins MVP? How about that?
Oh, a
Uh,
game MVP. Okay.
Mhm.
well, I said the Eagles, so I'm gonna go Saquon because I feel like that's the only choice for me on this one. I'm gonna go Saquon.
I think it'll be
Pat,
Jalen Hurts. Actually, I know Saquon would maybe be the easy pick, and most people would probably say Saquon. Heck, even if the Eagles lost, people would probably pick Saquon as an MVP. But I think Hurts is going to be an excellent battlefield commander. I think he's going to have a great completion rating, throw three touchdowns, rush one. Yeah, I think he'll be the reason offensively the Eagles dominate.
and I'm leaning Patrick Mahomes in my narrative. So I don't know who else on KC would be winning it if they win this game.
It wouldn't be Travis Kelsey, and then he proposes to Taylor Swift and happily ever after.
uh,
You never know.
eh,
That proposal could still happen without the MVP.
true.
All right, coin toss, heads or tails.
That's true.
Oh,
I'm gonna go heads. Gatorade color, anyone?
the Gatorade
Uh,
color,
yeah.
yellow.
That's a good one. I'm gonna say orange. This is why you guys don't let me come up with the questions because it's all gonna be superstitious stuff.
No, I just know that Josh is contemplating talking about their next topic that we don't want to talk about. That's what it is. That's where his head is now.
What the Philly Super Bowl party is gonna look like after we win or lose.
No,
City gets destroyed either way.
no, it's we're talking about a city that's being destroyed by its own organization.
By what?
By
Oh,
its own organization.
yeah.
Oh,
We can
Cleveland.
stick in the yeah, sticking in the NFL. Everybody knows by the time this show comes out that Myles Garrett has officially requested a trade, and I was even thinking about maybe they should trade him and just blow this thing up and restart. But now that you got that trade request in, I know that teams are gonna try to take advantage of that. They're not gonna be able to get like everything they can because they don't have the leverage now. But yeah, I thought that I can remember Khalil Mack going for 2 first rounders when the Raiders had traded him. I would love to get that from Miles. I think that we could get that from Miles, but after Garrett goes, seeing if Batonio retires and Nick Chubb seems to be on his way out, I think that maybe they need to move on from Barry at GM, maybe trade a few other players, acquire some picks, and just like restart. And I know Cleveland fans, that's something that we hear about all the time is okay, we got to rebuild, we scrap it and rebuild, and we do that like every 2 years. But we've given this, I guess, version of Cleveland as we know it like 4 or 5 years now, and it just fell off a cliff last year. And some might say that we're closer than what we think, but the fact that we just won like 3 or 4 games with mostly this roster, and just the quarterback was really the only problem that we had. We saw the offensive line take a noticeable step back after we didn't have Callahan coaching that anymore. We didn't have the same run game, obviously, with Nick Chubb, like Jerome Ford running behind this line just wasn't the same. So in my mind, I'm just like, well, we've given this team, 4 or 5 years and this was supposed to be the year that it went over the top. I think you got to scrap it, restart, try to accumulate some picks, and bring in another GM with a new vision and try to build something new again. But yeah, I think Garrett now with the trade request in is like, okay, you got to set that in motion.
Yeah. Look, at first when I read that, I was actually what was I doing? I was doing something. I was just kind of caught off guard. I was like, I just was getting ready to talk to my dad, and I called him. My dad's a big Browns fan, and he's like, "What?" And I think I knew the time was ending for some of these guys, with Batonio and Chubb and stuff. But I always felt like Miles, we had a good another 4 years at least out of him at a high level, and you could still build around him something. Look, I will go ahead and say it. Like Deshaun Watson is screwed. That deal has screwed over the organization for a
It's
lifetime,
officially the worst trade in
and
NFL history.
and for a lifetime, it's going to be screwed over. And I read an article, and I know many of you probably seen it, where it talked about how Deshaun Watson, that deal cost us a prime Baker Mayfield, a guy who's proven he can win, a prime Nick Chubb at his best, a Miles Garrett career that's going to be a Hall of Fame career. If it's not, he could retire today and it's a Hall of Fame career. And with a great young offensive line and a great defense, and you costed that because you were not willing to deal with the Baker problem. Whatever that Baker problem people made it to be, you were not able to just suck it up and deal with it and let's build around everything else. You didn't need to be, crazy, good. And so now it's like, now some are saying obviously the Browns came out and said they're not going to trade him, which I'm going, can we just do something because it's going to get gross, it's going to be icky. You're going to end up getting instead of a first round, you're going to get like a fourth round because you have to give him for nothing. Instead, let's just go amicably, whatever that word is.
Make
But anyways, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. And I think for me, I look at this and I go, it sucks that we're going to lose Garrett. I thought he was going to be kind of like Joe Thomas. He was going to be a Brown for life. He was going to retire a Brown. But I agree with you, Josh. I think you have to get what you can get from him, and I think you have to get at least two first rounders and at least a second, maybe just to get a third. And I think you have to recoup what Deshaun Watson trade did to you. And I think the other thing you have to do is do not play Deshaun Watson a single down the rest of his career with Cleveland. Just don't. Let's move on. Let's bring Kirk Cousins in for a year, or Jameis, keep Jameis for a year. Like just stick with that. Go with it as a bending period. And I think in this offseason for the draft, you have to get an edge rusher. You have to probably a top five edge rusher. You get a running back. You get some O line help, and you build from there. And I think for me, I would love to see them get Will Howard. I mean, that would just be phenomenal in like the third or fourth round. But I think in general, I think if you're a Browns fan, I want you to I want you to sit back and realize that like one, we've been here and we know what it feels like, and it sucks. I know, but it's also like don't hold this against Miles Garrett. Like I can't hold this against him. Like he wants to win championships. I don't blame him. And when he met with the Browns were obvious that you know he they weren't going to get him what he wanted. And I think the other thing too is that the thing that irritates me the most is before we just jumped on air, it was a report that came out, or he actually like said this to Eisen on his show that he consulted LeBron James about how to leave Cleveland or about leaving Cleveland. And I just go, LeBron doesn't have the track record of really leaving Cleveland in a great sense, and so that's just an interesting thing to me. And but at the end of the day, I just want to. I kind of agree with you, Josh. Like I just say, screw it, scrap it, and get what you can. Like trade Njoku, get a second and a third round pick for Njoku. Keep Jerry Judy, but everything else, put it up for sale. See what you can get, and go from there. Do what the Lions did. You know.
Yeah, it worked for Detroit. We've seen it work for other teams that even Washington, like they went out and got a lot of young talent in the building, made a lot of key signings, and you don't have to necessarily suck for 3 years before you can be good again. But yeah, we definitely miss having those three first rounders that we gave up in the Deshaun trade, and yeah, I do think it's time to move on. Brice, Ohio native, probably friends with a lot of Browns fans too. What's your perspective?
Man, I I don't have a perspective on that. I don't think about Browns football. I don't have any Browns fans here other than the ones that complain on Facebook all day about being a poverty franchise. I feel bad for y'all. Sorry. I will say that if Cleveland was ever successful, I'd be really happy. Then maybe I'd start being like, I'm actually from there. Maybe I'd have a new second favorite team. But man, I feel bad. I mean, I read Miles Garrett's note. He
Like
wants to
and
go
the thing
somewhere.
is, he feel like I don't like. I think he wants people to realize like he doesn't want to leave Cleveland. If you read that, it's not that he wants to leave Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean,
He wants to win championships. Like he
he's
doesn't
had
want
to
to
have
leave
lost
Cleveland.
total faith in the management and the GM and everyone there. I mean, I can't blame the guy
No,
from.
I can't
Yeah.
either. And that's the thing. And I think Josh can agree with me. It's not that it's kind of the similar thing when I think LeBron left the second time. Like I think LeBron a little different in the sense that LeBron, got what he wanted, which is a ring, but he wanted a little bit more success. But I think of it this way with Miles is that you read that note and it's like he has nothing against the Browns fans. He has nothing against the Browns players or most of the organization. I think this is the direct line to Andrew Barry and the Haslams and said, "You screwed this up and now you have to fix it. Now you're digging you out of your own grave." And some people say this is a ploy to get him to sign a contract. I'm like, "No, I think this is Garrett looking at them in the face and going, "You wasted our future because you wanted to be a flash signing." And I think it really backfired on the Haslams.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like by reading that note, if he would have saw some kind of potential that could happen in the next 3 or 4 years, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to stay. But yeah, with the worst trade happening and losing picks and all the drama, yeah, he's out. See ya.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it seems like most of the Cleveland fans I know are backing him and don't blame him, which was
it's a
different from when
rarity, and
LeBron
it's a
left the
rarity.
first time. Yeah.
But I think it's even the same as like I think the difference was like when LeBron left, like he didn't really give a reason why he was leaving. Like LeBron never came really and said, "I'm leaving because I want to win champion." No, it was obviously there was other things motivating him, and I think it's the same thing with, with Miles, but in the sense that Miles goes, "I need to appreciate what these people have done for me." I mean, the dude's been here for 8 years or 7 years, so like he's been here for a long time.
hmm This can be a good transition from NFL to college with another signing that happened. Chip Kelly goes to take the Raiders offensive coordinator job. So a great get for Pete Carroll
Six
on one
million.
end that we can talk about. But on the flip side, two Buckeye fans over here, that's another Ohio State assistant that's going to have to go. And we're just seeing the whole
Yeah.
staff get pillaged, but I don't think it's that uncommon to see a
No.
championship staff
No.
have this happen to them. This was something that made Nick Saban so good. Is like
Yeah.
he had so many guys come through. He
Yeah.
had Brian Daboll come through. He had Lane Kiffin come through. Steve Sarkisian come through. It seemed like no matter who
That's what
was
makes a great
leaving. Like he
coach.
always was
You
able to
adapt.
go and get other assistants. Like I think that was one of the most underrated aspects of Nick Saban's run in college
Yeah.
was he was so good at replacing assistants with more elite assistants. And I guess now that Ryan Day has been able to, put together the staff that he did last year, and now it's blowing up. Uh, as history shows, we'll see how good he is at bringing in new assistants. We've seen some coaches fail to do so. We've seen
Dabo.
once Clemson's staff started going, like they weren't able to replace. Although now they got Garrett Riley and Tom Allen, this is like the best that and most effort that Dabo's put into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
Uh,
thoughts, shocked,
yeah.
not
Yeah.
surprised.
Uh,
I mean, I was kind of expecting
yeah.
this. Where you been? I mean, it
Well,
doesn't really surprise me.
I said that I was going to give Chip 2 years. I felt like 1 year, even if they won a championship, I felt like he was just stick it out with Ryan just one more time. But I think I believe after reading some articles, I think that Chip Kelly was planning to stay, but when the $6 million and like the idea of just luxury and working under Pete Carroll, I think that for him just kind of goes. And again, I think he believes that's the ultimate competition. And look, now he's conquered what he didn't have, which was a national championship. So he's got that now. And I think with Jim Knowles, like he came out and said today that like he had nothing against Ohio State, which I struggle to believe completely,
Mhm.
but he obviously wanted to win one with Penn State. I love how he said we're going to win a natty, and I was like, okay, you have to get through Ohio State and Oregon first, so yeah, good luck. But And that's obviously a storyline. But then, you see today how Ohio State signed Virginia Tech's offensive coordinator to be the offensive line coach. And now, and I knew as soon as they did that, they were doing what I thought they were going to do, which is they promoted Brian Hartline basically to save him from getting poached. And he's now the OC. Billy Fessler is now the quarterback coach. I think what he's doing is Ryan Day is saying, I made the mistake with Brian Hartline once because he was not around someone that could help him outside of me. And I think when Brian Hartline was able to learn from Chip Kelly and learn how to call plays and learn how to be this guy, I think it's going to be a different, because he's going to call plays supposedly. So, look, Ryan Day is truly into that CEO mode, which I love. And what made Nick Saban so good is that he understood that I have to adapt my offense. If I know we're a running team, but he realized I have to find a guy that throws the ball more, and you have to kind of adapt with that. And I think at the end of the day, I think it sucks to lose them. I have heard that the reason there's no DC hire yet is because they're going after the Kansas City Chiefs defensive line coach. I know they tried to hire him last year, or they approached him last year, so that's why that one's taking longer. But again, I think it's just at the end of the day, what can you do to get this team to stay where they're at? And I think that's bringing guys in that know your players, but also know how to do that. And I think part of the reason they brought in the offensive coordinator to be offensive line coach is because he was a former offensive lineman, but he knows how to call plays and he can help Brian Hartline with that. And I think that's a big key.
Yeah, good
So
analysis.
is that a big enough move then for you guys to be satisfied? I know it's not like the splash hires that
No,
like getting Jim Knowles
I'm
and
I'm
getting Chip
fine.
Kelly were, but
Yeah, I'm fine
this is going to be
because
okay with you.
Brian Hartline's been there for 9 years working with Ryan Day. He's been around Ryan Day for 9 years. He's been in this program. He's the best recruiter in the country. And I think on top of that, he was the OC. He learned through his mistakes. And now, I mean, if you talk about it, he was the one that helped with the pass game during the playoffs. So he's already been a part of that process. And knowing Chip Kelly, he probably, as he kind of knew maybe when he was going to be leaving or if he was going to, maybe he had Brian Hartline, learn a little bit more. But I'm okay with that. I'm interested to see what they do with DC, but I don't know about you, Brice, but I'm okay with that because they got a veteran guy to come in and help him out. Even though the guy's only 38, he's still a veteran guy with the OC position.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was like promoting from within, and now I feel like you don't really run the risk of if we have a ton of success next year of the guys just leaving again and then having to
Yeah.
rebuild. I feel like they've kind of built up with us, their Ohio State boys, or Heartline is, and he'll stay around. But yeah, I knew Chip Kelly, if we won the Natty, was going to leave because I mean, as an Eagles fan, I dealt with Chip Kelly too as a head coach, and he kind of has that
He wants to
kind of
he
has
wants to
that
fix the wrong. He almost wants to fix what people thought of him
yeah,
in the
he almost
NFL.
has that Brian Kelly vibe though, where he's just like, I'm going to keep going somewhere else to try and win and
Yeah.
make a bigger name for myself or create some kind of legacy. I just saw on Chip Kelly's face as soon as we were in that national championship that yeah, he's gone. He's gonna go be an NFL coach. That I'm sure
Which
that's what
hats
his
off to him, man. Hats
yeah,
off to him. 6 million.
more
That's
power to him. I'm
yeah.
sure he wants to try and
And
become
Ryan
a head
Day.
coach again.
Well, it's even like
Hmm.
Ryan Day said that he's committed to Ohio State, which this is the first time Ryan Day has ever come out and said he's committed to building Ohio State. He has never came out verbally in public and say I'm committed to being at Ohio State. He's always said, we'll see what the future brings. And now he's like, I don't want to be like, Jim and Urban. I want to be like Woody and win multiple national titles at Ohio State. And that to
Yeah,
me says I want to be here for the long haul. I want my family to be here, and I want to go from there.
yeah. Hearing those kinds of things just excites me as a fan. It's special to have.
Yeah,
I'm excited for the two-peat next year.
absolutely.
Have they hired a defensive coordinator yet? I don't
No,
know if I've.
no, that's
No,
what I was
not
Okay.
yet,
saying.
not
That's what I
yet.
was saying. They're waiting to interview the Kansas City Chiefs
Yeah.
defensive line coach
I'm
right now.
sure we'll get a
Okay.
hire right after the Super Bowl. It's probably going that direction.
Maybe, yeah. I think we can wrap the show today with just initial reactions to that
Stupid,
Luka Doncic trade.
stupid,
Oh,
dumb,
NBA is a joke.
out of this
I
world.
threw it up. I can remember reading that at work and just
I was
I had to
shocked.
check. I checked what account posted and I was like, "Oh, it's the official Sports Center." Wild.
Yeah.
And I just threw it up on my Instagram story and was like, "Well, ain't that something?" And I had other people message me like, "Is this real or is
Well,
this isn't real,
Shams
right?"
even said like he goes, "Did I get hacked?" I mean, I love what Brian Windhorst said. He said that no one, like literally, there was only three or four people that knew this was going on, and it was the owners and it was the two GMs. And to me, like you have to hate Luka Doncic so much that you trade him for, by the way, basically nothing. You basically just got like a first round pick and Anthony Davis, who's 31 years old. And they say he was overweight. He didn't like to work out. Okay, I live in
He's
Europe.
6'7",
Listen,
and they said 270. I don't feel
also,
like that's that big for
no, well, he's a guard,
2'7".
but I'm going to put it this way, guys. I live and watch basketball in Europe. There is no guy over here that is ripped, skinny. Like the good players are like thicker, chunkier dudes. And by the way, it's scary over here, man. They foul harder, they play harder. So for me, I just go, dude, you were finding an excuse not to pay the extra 119 million, which if I'm Luca, I'm so mad. Like, but also Luca just
That,
bought a house in
yeah,
Dallas and Anthony Davis just bought a house in LA. Like, I'm just like, whatever, but it'll be interesting to see him and
that's the
LeBron.
business side of the
I don't
sport.
think
But
they're going to have no inside presence, by the way, the Lakers, which means now you're really going to struggle with that.
yeah, I wonder, and I thought this when Brooklyn had brought Durant, Irving, and Harden together. Like when you got that many ISO guys, I mean, even when Dallas went out and got Kyrie Irving, and it's like you're gonna have two ISO heavy guards like in your backcourt. How's this gonna work for just general ball movement? But obviously, they're at least able to make it to a finals with those guys, and I do wonder, yeah, how Luka and LeBron can coexist. I mean, on one hand, it's like you absolutely do that if you're LA. That's two of the top five guys in the league. That's two guys that can go for triple double almost any given night if they wanted to go out and set to do that. So if you're LA, like
LeBron's going to
absolutely,
play
I
more inside, though. That's the thing. LeBron's going to play more inside, which I know he's not a fan of.
yeah.
And the Mavs
Do
are
we
stacked.
do we know if Dallas is the one that initiated this trade, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I can remember seeing like a lot of
Yeah.
GMs were upset that they did not get a in the know to be
Well,
able to
no,
bid or maybe put a better offer in.
Danny Ainge of the Jazz, because they were the third team in that. That he like was mad because he didn't actually know it was involving Luca and AD, because he was mad because it went through after he submitted his picks that he was trading, and he was like, "Man, I would have tried to get something out of that," and so he was upset about it. But then also like look at the Mavs roster. It actually like as much as I'm giving them a hard time, like they do have a win now mode because they're bringing in Anthony Davis. They have two other centers. Basically, they're doing what the Cavs are doing. They're going to go two big 7-footers inside, which the Cavs have brought back the true 5-man up front with two forwards and three guards. And for me, I think that's exciting for the Mavs, but also like I don't think that wins them a championship. I don't think AD wins them a championship.
I
So
don't either. I think it's a
it's
huge
interesting.
loss, a net loss for Dallas. Like this for not wanting to be cheap, not paying him a super max, for coming up with the excuses about conditioning and being 270. It's just like, geez, man. Like I know Mark Cuban isn't the main owner anymore, and he's not the one making the decisions. I don't think he ever would have made a move like that. We've seen that guy care about winning, be somewhat aggressive in off seasons, and not necessarily shy away from paying his superstars what they're deserving. But if I'm a Dallas fan, I'm so upset about this.
It almost feels like the Cowboys, man. It feels like just Dallas in general is just struggling with figuring out things.
Maybe, man, but
Must have took advice from Jerry Jones.
Must have, yeah.
possibly, man. When you see some trades like Rudy Gobert's gone for 4 first-round picks before, and the best you can get out of Luka is Anthony Davis and like a first, I just don't see it. But there's been some other weird trades too. I seen earlier Kyle Kuzma for like
Yeah,
Chris Middleton kind of
yeah,
thing, and I'm like that's freaking weird. But
yeah. It's a weird time, but no, it, again,
NBA is a silly place.
it is.
it is a
It
silly
is.
place, like the most unserious league I think at the moment. Like we were talking
Yeah,
about commissioners, at least as a league as a whole, like just players,
The funniest
coaches,
looking
GMs,
commissioner
commissioner.
is definitely Adam Silver.
Yeah, yeah, he's from the moon or
He looks
Mars or
like he
something.
looks like he's from SpongeBob. He's a Squidward, or
distant relative.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
shoot,
Oh,
man, I think that was
one,
all
yeah,
one,
the
one
big
last
stuff that we
goofy
wanted to
Super
yeah.
cover.
Bowl question. What's
Okay.
the over
Oh,
under on the national anthem? A minute 30 seconds. You taking over or under?
Oh, over because they're gonna go overdo
Over.
it. They're gonna because new
Okay.
president. They're gonna overdo it. It's gonna be
do we
terrible.
know who's singing it?
I don't know who's singing. I know Kendrick Lamar's doing the halftime, but I don't
Oh
know who's
Kendrick Lamar's
gosh.
doing
singing.
halftime. I'll see if I can find who's singing it right now because I think that it would be a key indicator, a good
I
thing to
think they do a
know.
couple songs too. They probably do like America the Brave. They probably do the whole well, I don't know if they'll do the Black Lives Matter rally song since Trump's there. I'm just kidding.
And they're getting rid of end racism, so they don't. I mean, all the hate for all the races now, I guess, is what they're welcoming.
Well, I think
Let's
they said they're
see.
just changing it now to the Choose Love one. It'll say Choose Love, which I guess is okay.
Oh, all right. So John Batiste, I think I said his name right, is the one that's singing the national anthem this year.
Hmm.
No idea who that is. He looks
Yeah.
like
Sounds like an opera guy.
this is him.
Oh, well, I was wrong. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, no idea. But
Yeah.
I will
But I
say
think he'll
slightly
probably
under
nail
a
it.
minute and a half.
I'm gonna
There,
go over.
there we go. There we go. Well, you know what the over under is, I think, for an awesome podcast episode, it's always the over. We always have an awesome podcast episode. It's truly amazing. But no, I will say we want to always thank Brice coming on. It's always fun to have someone else to give us some, bickering and some fun conversations. So we appreciate it, Brice. And if you guys love this episode of the podcast, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Yeah, it's been fun to hear who watches these because I hear it in Europe, I hear it obviously in America, and it's like it's funny when people over here watch us and they think of Josh and I's jokes and they hear them and sometimes they go, "What are you guys talking about?" And like honestly, sometimes we don't even know. And that's the fun of the show. But we really appreciate you guys and this community that we're building. And also, if you love listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give us a rating. Drop a when you share it, drop a comment and be like, "Look, Ben's amazing. Bryce is awesome, and
I
Josh
also
is
think it
okay.
would be a
And Josh
crime,
is
real
okay."
quick. I hate to
Yeah.
jump in right when you're ending, but a crime if I
No.
didn't say at least one UFC comment. Two title fights this weekend. I'm taking Dricus Du Plessis over Strickland. I think he defends his belt, and I think
Hmm.
Weili Zhang loses her title to Tatiana Suarez. Just had to get that in
And
there. So
see what that is. See that well,
This was
that's
that
what I'm
loaded
saying.
card that we
So
were
when
talking
you
about with you a
so
few
when
weeks ago.
so this
It's here
thing
now.
when we comment at the bottom after you decide to give us a rating, we can talk about how Ben's awesome, and Bryce is intellectual and amazing, and Josh is okay. And I'm just kidding. Josh will beat me up. We can put that in the comment. Josh Ben boxing fight. I think
ooh,
Josh would win. I think Josh would win. To be honest with you, you can give it down the bottom. What do you
I like
think?
to think Ben
Who
has
would win?
incredible reach on me, but
Have you seen these guns, man? There's nothing there.
former
I've
quarterback.
I have no swinging power that's whatsoever. So, anyways, down below, Bryce will be the referee. Who would win in a boxing match? Would it be Ben or would it be Josh? The over under of Ben getting knocked out is going to be over for sure.
That's
But we'll go with that. So let us know down in the comments, and we'll never do it, but it's a great hypothetical. Anyways, we hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Stay safe. And until next time, we'll see ya.